Kids are back in school, so it's just every day going. All right.
I can
So,
imagine.
I think you had your headphones out, but Alex is good to go first, where he's taking the positive stance. So he'll have up to 10 minutes on the floor, and then you'll have up to 10 minutes. The only question I have is that we've had quite a bit of success doing like a cross examination right after opening statements. So I don't know if you guys want to do like a 5 minute response after your intros. It's up to you, but it seems like it's been working out really well just to kind of set flow. So, what do you guys think of that?
Yeah, that works. I mean, I don't care. I'm not picky. Whatever you
All
think's
right.
better for the show.
Yeah, no worries. It seems like it just kind of sets a better pace up, I guess, because the intro is like everybody's just trying to get through as much as they can. But when you do a response, it's kind of like you're getting more into your groove. And then if you have an isolated moment with that, then it kind of gives your, I guess, debate opponent a chance to kind of, I don't know, find the niche, in the way that you're communicating your ideas. So that sounds great. All right, I started up the stream here, so getting more into your. Make sure that I got the right names up here. And then I gotta go shush the kids because they're being way too loud. They're supposed to be in bed, but you know how it is. Mom was reading a story to them and they're still awake.
All right.
And then Rob, you want me to call you the right corner, or Rob? What do you?
Yeah,
what do
or
you,
RC typically.
Oh yeah, RC. Yeah, RC, right corner. Yeah, I got it. RC.
And Alex for you, right?
Yeah, that works for me. Pimp on
Okay,
a blamp,
cool.
prime time, whatever you want. But yeah,
Prime time.
RC. I knew that you had a nickname, or yeah, RC, right corner down. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just go with pimp on a blimp over here. That's fine. That's fine. I'm just kidding. All right, let's get it rolling. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Modern Day Debate. Tonight we're going to be debating Trump or never Trump. And to get us started, we have 10 minutes on the floor for Alex Stein. So thank you so much for coming back to Modern Day Debate, Alex Stein, and the floor is all yours.
Well, it's always a privilege, and for the people that are watching at home, RC and I talked about this. Or actually, we didn't personally talk to each other, but we talked to James, who is the person that runs his channel, and we were going to talk about, is Trump good for the conservative movement? So, I mean, I guess overgeneralization of this debate is Trump versus anti-Trump, but really, I think I think it's more specifically, is Trump good for the conservative movement? And my position is that Trump is good for the conservative movement. I think he's the only hope that the conservative movement has, and one of the main reasons being, when you look at all the other conservative politicians that potentially could take Trump's spot, you look at Nikki Haley. She's a warmonger. She's terrible. She was cheating on her husband while he was overseas. Absolute, lack of a better word, Nikki Haley's a scumbag that wants to kill soldiers and put them through the meat grinder for what? For the military-industrial complex. You look at other conservatives that would be taking his spot. Ron DeSantis, yeah, I do like some of the things that Ron DeSantis says. I'm not going to sit here and be a Ron DeSantis hater, but I don't think that he has the swag or the ability to lead that Donald Trump has. And I want to start off by saying, is Donald Trump perfect? No, I was upset with how he handled January 6th. I'm upset also with a lot of the vaccine mandates or how he rolled out the vaccine. So I think there are major criticisms of Donald Trump, but when you compare him to other leaders that could potentially be leading the Conservative Party or just even America in general, the anti-abortionists that are going after Trump and that are saying that he's not strong enough on abortion, yet he's the one that got Roe v. Wade overturned by appointing the Supreme Court justices, it kind of makes me sick and kind of makes you feel that the far right is being very hypocritical because they're attacking Trump when the only other option is a person like Kamala Harris who literally wants to abort babies, up until the day they are born, basically. And, you can say that that's a right-wing conspiracy, but then you have Governor Northam from Virginia saying that they would keep the baby comfortable and then decide if they would euthanize the baby or not. So my point is Trump perfect? No way. I would never say that Trump is perfect. But I think that's why Trump is the best candidate, because he's truly a populist candidate. And that populism side or that populism agenda that he has will not always vibe with the traditional or super religious right. And I understand that because Donald Trump, I don't think he's the most religious guy. I think he does believe in God, but I don't think he puts religion first. And I think that's a reason why we should like him, because I do believe that everybody should have religion in their life. I believe God is real, but I do think that there should be a distinct separation of church and state. And I think Donald Trump emboldens that pretty well. So, just kind of trying to wrap this all up, I understand why Donald Trump gets a lot of hate. I definitely understand that. But at the end of the day, he's the lesser of two evils. And I think that he would actually be better for America. And I do believe that Donald Trump loves this country. So for all the conservatives that are like, oh, I hate Trump, I don't like the way he handled the abortion issue. I don't like the way he handled this. I don't like the way he handled that. I understand your gripes. But you and I both know, and I'm sure RC would probably agree with me, but we'll find out, that Donald Trump does love this country. He does love America, and he does not want to turn us into a globalistic nightmare, and I don't think he wants to sell us out to all these other countries. But I guess we'll just have to get into the weeds of it, because I just want to say that I love Donald Trump. I'm going to be voting for Donald Trump. And the reason why I like Donald Trump is because he used to go on the Howard Stern show and he used to rate beauty queens. And because he is a little wild, because he is a real man, that he sleeps with women. He's not one of these gay guys like Kamala Harris's husband dug him off, or Tim Walz. He's an actual man. And I respect that. And that's why we need Donald Trump in the White House, because I think he embodies the true populist movement. And that, yes, the people that hate him on the right, they get mad at him that he's not conservative enough. But if the people on the left realize that Donald Trump was more moderate, I think that they would actually support him more. So I do think it's important for him to be more moderate and not super far right. Like when it comes to social services, I get it that we don't want to have a bunch of social services, but I don't mind American citizens getting social services. I just don't want illegal immigrants to get social services over American citizens. So I think Donald Trump is going to try to rectify that. Is he going to build a wall? He didn't build a wall his first time. I'm really frustrated about that. He should have had the wall already built. Hopefully with his second time in office, if they let him get in office before they try to kill him. You saw it today. Looks like there was a second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So if the deep state, the same people that basically stole the election from him, if they're that threatened by Donald Trump, but they're not threatened by Nikki Haley, they're not threatened by Dan Crenshaw, they're not threatened by Ron DeSantis, then I think it makes a greater point that yes, he might not be conservative enough for you, RC, but he is still way too conservative for the deep state. And at the end of the day, he's better for our country than whoever the left could roll out or whoever the right can roll out behind him. So with that, I'll end my opening statement.
All right, you got it. Well, thank you so much, Alex Stein, for your introductory statement. Want to have a big welcome here to Modern Day Debate. If it's your first time here, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. We do a Q&A at the end of every discussion. So if you have a question for either of our speakers, you can put it into a super chat, and we will ask it after our open discussion. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we're going to hand it over to the right corner. So I'm going to reset the timer. You have up to 10 minutes, and the floor is all yours. Thanks for coming back to Modern Day Debate.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And thank you, Alex, for being here as well. I appreciate, I think this is the third time I'm back, so I appreciate the opportunity. So in your opening statement, you mentioned that, Trump is a real man. But when we look back at what the real men that built the Western world, most of them had submitted to the authority of Jesus Christ. When we look at real men like our great-great-grandfathers and our forefathers, these were men that submitted to the authority of God. They submitted to a higher authority. When we look at real men that risked their lives fighting in World War I, World War II to protect their family in this country, it wasn't just because common sense and critical thinking led them to that conclusion. It's because they surrendered their life to Jesus Christ. They surrendered their life to God, and they risked the ultimate sacrifice, which is their life, for a greater authority. So when you criticize, Tim Walz, the vice president elect that Kamala Harris has selected, or the proposed potential vice president elect, I don't like him either. But when you make fun and say he's gay and all this, when we start blurring the lines as conservatives of what is socially acceptable, what is socially unacceptable, then what's actually wrong with being gay? What's actually wrong with homosexual marriage? What is actually wrong with abortion? What is wrong with teaching children in the school system that you can get hormone blockers and that two men being together is normal in a romantic relationship? What's actually wrong with that if you don't have an objective standard that you're measuring the society to? And we've always held a certain standard, and that standard, back to the founding fathers, most of them, was a higher authority. And in the Constitution, you have biblical principles baked within it. So we've always been a Christian nation. There is separation of church and state. I agree with the founding fathers for grounding that in the Constitution, as you said, because they didn't want to have another Catholic monarchy. It's not because these were atheists that rejected the authority of God. You know, even when we look, I think I still have it pulled up here, but when we look when we look at the Declaration of Independence, let me just pull this back up. One of the concluding statements in the Declaration of Independence is here. I think it's the last sentence here. And for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. So down to the founding of this country, up until really, let's say, 19.
Oh, we lost
I
your
think
audio.
you might have pressed mute.
Two is a time I like to ground, which is, and I.
Oh, I think he's actually just losing his connection for a
Can
second.
you
1 second.
hear me?
Yeah, I think you caught up. So
Yeah, I
I
think
paused the timer.
I think the deep state or Israel is trying to
Wow, it cut out again.
take me out or something. I don't know. One of the two. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going
Is
to say,
it cutting
I paused
out
the timer
again?
Yeah, it did cut out again for some odd reason. Yeah. Did you want to maybe just maybe jump out right quick and just rejoin?
Well, I know. I think it's working now. Is it unplugged or say something, RC?
It's fine on my
Yeah, and now it's working. So maybe don't
Hey,
just
Wi-Fi.
let's just see.
All right, we'll
If-
keep the timer going.
yeah,
Sorry
if
about
it-
this.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry about it. If it cuts out again, I'll jump out and jump back in because I think this happened the last time. I think perhaps the deep state's after me or something. So what I was trying to say, I don't know how much of that you heard, in the Declaration of Independence, it summarizes at the end, it concludes at the end, and for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, right? And that's not the only time that a higher authority is mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. I think God's mentioned 6 or 7 times in some kind of way. Now, without all of that being said, we started in the United States rejecting the authority of God in 1962 when the Supreme Court outlawed prayer in public schools. So I think a lot of conservatives have bent the knee and said that it is okay to not put religion in schools, but they have at the same time conceded ground to the left that has allowed the pride religion to be forced into the education system, teaching children about homosexuality, transsexuality, and whoever maybe now pedophilia is going to be the next agenda. Actually, it is the next agenda when you have these drag.
All right. I do have to wheel it in just because of what we did talk about at the beginning. Is that we are going to try to focus on, on the Trump.
I don't mind what he's saying, though.
Yeah.
I don't mind what he's saying.
No, it's fine.
So
it's just we
this,
could get down another rabbit hole that we could be in for a while. So go ahead.
I think there is sexual indoctrination of children. I think that's going on. I agree with him.
The overall point I'm trying to bring here is that what really is being conservative. And when I look at the things that Trump is bending the knee at and what Trump is looking the other way to and justifying, it is nothing about conservatism. And with that, I would just end my time because really this debate is about what is a conservative and is Trump holding a conservative standard?
All right. Well, thank you for your introductory statement, and sorry that we had a connection issue there, but we got through it, and we are going to go into each speaker only had up to 5 minutes for their intro so far, so I will give them up to 5 minutes to respond to some of what they've just heard, and then we'll get into our open discussion full on. So, Alex, I'll give you the floor up to 5 minutes, and then you can cede whenever you'd like.
Well, I do agree with a lot of what RC is saying, and I would argue, I guess Trump is. I think he's on the record of saying that he believes in God, but he's not some big Christian. But when it comes to conservatism, I believe there can be Jewish conservatives, there can be Muslim conservatives. I would think that Jesus Christ was obviously respected by multiple religions. So you and I, let's agree that Jesus was real, but I still don't think that means that only Christians that believe in Jesus Christ can be conservative, is what I would argue with that. I do think that there can be other people in other religions that can be conservative. So I guess that's where I would disagree with you. And I understand what you're saying. Trump is not a big enough Christian, but like even if the guy's the biggest Christian, look at Joel Osteen. He's a huge Christian. He sucks. Look at the Catholic Church or the Pope. What did he say? He said all religions can lead to God, and he's arguably like the most famous Christian. So just because you call yourself Christian or you identify as this huge Christian, that doesn't automatically make you a good person. And I think that's sometimes the problem, is that we say, oh, well, he's a Christian, so he's a good guy. A lot of people are fake Christians. And I think that's almost worse than an atheist sometimes, because at least an atheist tells you what they are and they're honest about it. A lot of these pulpit pimps like Joel Osteen that say they're a Christian, but then when there's a hurricane, he won't even let people into his church because he's got new carpet. He doesn't want to stain his carpet. That doesn't seem very Christian-like, and these people have a lot of influence. So just because you identify as Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior doesn't automatically make you a good person in my book. And just like there's probably a lot of criticisms you have with Islam, a lot of criticisms you have with Judaism, which I think, a lot of them are fair. There can be good Jews, there can be good Muslims too. So I don't know. I guess it's maybe an overgeneralization to say that in order to be a conservative, you have to be a Jesus-following Christian. I disagree with that.
Okay, a few things to respond to what you said. If I want to see if a dollar bill is a real dollar bill, I don't use a counterfeit dollar bill as the standard. So if I want to see if someone's really practicing the principles of Christianity, I don't compare them to other Christians. I compare them to the example of Jesus Christ. That is the standard. That is the truth. So I know that I don't agree with the Pope. I'm not a Catholic. There's a lot of things the Pope says that I don't agree with. I don't agree with how Joel Osteen didn't open up his home or his church in that case for people to come in and seek shelter from the storm. So I don't use Joel Osteen or the Pope or any human being as a standard of comparison, just as I don't use a counterfeit bill as a standard for seeing what does a true dollar look like. Now, with that being said, no, you don't have to be a Christian in this country in order to fit into the conservative movement. You don't have to be a person that admits Christ as Lord to be in the conservative movement, but you have to respect, just like I'll use this as an example. If I went to Israel, their conservative movement is not grounded in Jesus Christ. They don't follow their conservative standards because they have an authority of Jesus Christ. If I went to the United Emirates, most of the countries, if not all of the countries in the United Emirates, their conservatism in the way that women dress, in the way the men dress, in the way they talk, in what they want to teach their kids in school, it's grounded in the Quran, right? Now, if you can be a conservative as a Christian, as an atheist, as a Jew in the United Emirates, but you have to respect that their standard is the Quran. If you're in Israel, you have to respect their standard is the Torah. And in the United States, you have to respect that our standard is in the authority of Jesus Christ. That's what most of the Western world was built in, and definitely United States was. So when I look at Donald Trump ceding ground and saying that, it's actually bad that Ron DeSantis has an abortion bill at 6 weeks, it should be longer. So, when he starts justifying that it's okay to end human life for an irresponsible adult, I say, no, that's not conservative. But with all of that being said, I wanted to ask you, besides economically, socially, how do you define conservative?
Well, I would say as least amount of government involvement as possible. That's what I would think would be the overgeneralization of conservatism, is, having the government not involved in all of our, decisions every day. And I think Donald Trump does embody that a little bit, but at the end of the day, right? I keep saying at the end of the day, like, we want this no government intervention, but that's not reality, right? We live in a country with rules and laws, and the government's always going to be involved. And I believe there's a uniparty. Like, I believe the conservative side and the left are basically just all the same, and I believe politics are just the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. So I don't trust any of it, and that's why I like Donald Trump, because I believe he is a wild card. And that you are right. Maybe he's not super conservative, but you could argue that maybe he's more of a populist. And that's why I like him, because he's not somebody that's just trying to, I guess, kowtow or pander to the right. He's willing to have opinions that are different than, I guess you would say, traditional conservatives. But this is the other thing. It's like, yes, I agree. I think abortion is terrible. I'm anti-abortion. But him trying to say 6 weeks, RC, you're smart enough to realize abortion is a terrible issue. There's there are people that are going to get abortions for whatever reason, or at least want abortions. So if you can't see that, I think that he's trying to, I guess, meet the voters in the middle. And is it whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, you have to realize that he's trying to win a popularity contest. He's trying to win votes, and this is a very important issue. So I think that's why he says that. But when you look at Donald Trump and you compare him to what Kamala Harris would do for abortion if she got into the White House, it would be much worse. So that's where I kind of lose it. It's like, yes, I get it. Donald Trump's not enough, but he's much better on abortion than any other options out there. As a matter of fact, he's the reason that Roe versus Wade got overturned. So like, it's kind of like, I know you want your cake and to eat it too, but that's just not how the world works. Life is not fair. I guess we have to pick the candidate that we think would be better for the job, or at least would align with my ideology better or more than their opponent.
I'm going to jump in right quick before you respond. Just remind everybody, once again, if you're listening right now on podcast and you're wondering where you can find this, it's Modern Day Debate, the YouTube show live. You want to make sure that you subscribe here so that you don't miss out on our live events. We're live right now, and we are, like I said, we are going to take questions at the end. So if you have any questions for either speaker, you can put them into a super chat. I'm going to put up a poll there, guys, and see where our audience is at as well. And I'll check back in with you guys in 45 because I think you guys can really naturally flow this one out. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Robbie, and we'll put 45 on the floor.
Okay. So you were saying that, I'm trying to remember one of the last things you said there. Oh, that I can't have my cake and eat it too. I think that statement is applicable to Trump. I don't think that's applicable to me. I'm principled in the conservative stance. And when I asked you to define conservatism, you said smaller government. And I wanted you to define conservatism absent economic view. So socially, what does it mean to be a conservative? And you said he's trying to win a popularity contest. Being a Christian, being a follower of Christ, follower of God, and holding his standards is going to be unpopular to culture. It's going to be unpopular. That's the point of conservative. Because what are we trying to conserve? Because if we're just trying to win a popularity contest, really socially, what separates the right from the left? And my belief, politics is downstream from culture. So if we start trying to win a popularity contest on all cultural issues, our politics are going to change. And when we look at this strictly from a social point of view, what separates conservatives socially from liberals socially? What is the dividing line? Where do we draw lines in the sand that we say, we don't care how unpopular this is, we are not going to bend the knee? Because when we look 10 years ago, 12 years ago, actually, the Democrat Party, the left, were against gay marriage, right? Socially, they have regressed past that point, opened the floodgates to this. And now we have children learning about men getting axe wounds between their legs and calling themselves women and normalizing this because we opened the floodgates to this. Now, fast forward 10 years later today, the conservative Republican Party today is what the Democrats were 10 years ago. And in 5 years' time, it will be what the Democrats are today. But if you have a conservative movement that needs to draw the line in the sand and stick a stake in the ground, where do we not justify and where do we not concede ground to these people on the left? Because the left never concedes ground to the right, but we constantly are saying things like, well, we need to fight for the middle. Well, that middle continues to shift to the left every 4 years.
Well, no, I understand what you're trying to say, and I mean, maybe this isn't a good analogy, but it's like, you can be the New England Patriots, right? Like you have the Bill Belichick, he's not the coach anymore, but you can be like the best football team, and you can, hold your players accountable, but sometimes you might have to get a player that has a bad resume, that might have done something in the bad. He might not reflect your team entirely, but what's most important, it's about winning, right? And so I get what you're saying. Morals, that they are very important, but you're trying to win. You're trying to win a contest.
At what cost?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I guess you get to decide what cost, but I think that if you lose to the left, we're only going to get more progressively crazy, more degenerate. Yeah, you could say the right is starting to trend that way. I would agree. I remember Hillary Clinton being against gay marriage, but I guess it's a slower process if you pick the conservative candidate. So I get what you're saying. And listen, I would like to just be like, hey, I stand on my morals. I don't care if I win or lose. But sadly, winning and losing does matter, right? I mean, you do want to win.
You will compromise on your morals?
Would I compromise on my morals if I was Donald Trump trying to win an election, and if I was the president? Yeah, I think I would try to pander a little bit to the left, kind of like how Kamala Harris says, "Oh, I'm not going to take away your guns. I own a gun." But then we know when she gets in, she's going to probably take away our guns. I don't know. I think during a campaign, is it okay to lie? No, but all politicians lie. So I do think that you should have to pander. I mean, that's just me being based in reality. And how do I win an election? Is it right? Is it the right thing to do to lie? No, but all politicians lie, whether it's Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Barack Obama. But I'll just put it like this. In the past 16 years, 12 years of those years have been led by Democrats. And that's why our country sucks. That's why our country is doing terrible. The 4 years that Donald Trump was in office, it wasn't perfect, but I would think you and I would agree that Roe versus Wade did get overturned. And for the conservative movement, he was he encouraged a lot more people to get involved than not get involved. Donald Trump was much more popular than Mitt Romney, than any other past candidates that I can even think of. So at the end of the day, is Donald Trump perfect? No, but nobody's perfect, right? I mean, isn't that why humans are the way we are, that we're all not perfect, we're all redeemable, we all make mistakes? And I think that's what, a Christian like yourself should understand, is that Donald Trump is not going to be perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So to expect somebody to be 100% perfect or 100% aligned with every single viewpoint that I have, I think that's an impossibility, personally.
Yeah, I'm not looking for perfect. I'm not holding Trump to a standard that if he's not perfect, if he falls short of the grace of God, then I will not vote for him, because then I'm not going to vote for anyone. But I could say the same.
But real quick, not voting is a vote in a way, though. I'm just saying, RC, by abstaining to vote, you are utilizing your vote. I'm not trying to cut you off, but
not necessarily, because you can vote for members in Congress. You can vote for the Senate. I could vote for try to get a majority House that's Republican, majority Senate that's Republican, and withhold my vote for presidency. And I didn't say I'm going to or not. I'm just saying that my point is, I'm not holding Trump to a perfect standard, because then everyone's going to fall short of that. And the same, what you just said about Trump, I can apply to Kamala Harris. She's not perfect, but why not vote for her? Just because what she's advocating for is slightly worse than what Trump is advocating for?
Well, I would think it's a lot worse, right? Slightly worse, I think, is an understatement.
It's a lot worse now, but in 5 years, the Republicans are going to keep ceding ground where it's going to be slightly worse. And they're going to keep pushing much more radical things. And then 5 years from that, it's going to be slightly worse. And
okay, RC. No, you're right. I think you have some good points, but let's not even talk about social conservatism. Let's just talk about the border right now. Trump probably didn't do enough when he was in office, but don't you think that what's happening in Springfield, what's happening with these Haitian immigrants, don't you think that's going to get much worse under Kamala compared to if Trump got back in office? At least the immigration issue, which is a very important thing to me, being in Texas, dealing with illegal immigrants, worried about getting hit by a guy with no insurance, getting in maybe a fatal car accident, which has happened multiple times. Like, don't you think at least Trump would be a lot different than Kamala Harris would be on the border?
I'll get to that in a moment. I think we'll have time to get to that.
Yeah.
So I'll answer it, but I don't want to just move past social conservatism, because that's really the essence of this debate. And if we don't clearly define what it means to be conservative, socially speaking, yeah, we can fight for smaller government. Yeah, we can be more America first. Yeah, we can lower taxes, and we can incentivize business owners to open a company here, and we can bring back manufacturing. I agree with all of that economically. But socially, if we fall apart, if the social fabric of our society tears apart at the seams, and our children are going to public schools learning dangerous material about just everything opposite of what we've always held to be true, everything opposite of what the founding fathers came here away from Europe in the first place, and we start just uprooting everything that made us successful in the first place, then socially we're not going to be the same country, and downstream from that our politics are going to change. So yeah, you could look at the Haitian immigrants, you could look at different policies that Trump is putting in place, and I would agree with that. But it's all for nothing if we just give ground to the left and we don't. So again, I would. Do you have a concrete definition socially of what it means to be a conservative?
Well, I don't think mine would be the same as yours, because I would think that you would say that a gay person can't be a conservative, but I would argue that a gay person can be conservative. So but socially, if you're just talking about social factors, you would probably disagree with me on that. But I would say a gay person can be a conservative, in my opinion.
So you're telling me who can be a conservative, but what is a conservative? What is your standard?
Well, I mean, I would say you're talking about what are the social conservatives? We're talking about socially. I don't know. How would you define it? Because I guess socially more traditional. That you'd want less abortion. You would want less sexual indoctrination in schools. And I think
yes, I would agree. We want what you're saying, but why is that? Why have we always held that abortion is wrong? Why have we always held that marriage is between a man and a woman? Why have we always held these things to be true?
Well, I guess you're going to say the Bible, right? But when you say
just objectively, why has our society always held that to be true?
Well, I don't know if they always have because they're shifting so much. But yeah, I see what you're trying to say is that you're going to say because of the Bible, that's why we have these more traditional Christian values. I think that's the point you're trying to make. But I would think that there's Muslim people that have similar values that are against gay marriage, that are against a lot of the sexual indoctrination stuff. So you don't necessarily have to be a Christian to have those morals, I don't think.
I'm asking why the United States has the morals that has. And to my understanding, the founding fathers were not Muslim. They were not Jewish. They were not Hindu.
Well, some of the founding fathers supposedly, this is the conspiracy side of it. Let's just get in the conspiracy. Supposedly some of them were Satanists. Ben Franklin had a bunch of bones they found in his house. I don't know if you ever heard of that conspiracy. That was very weird. So I'm saying a lot of our founding fathers were weird. They were Freemasons. They were at all kinds of weird secret society stuff. And then we talk about the gay agenda. The gay agenda is bad, but there's a guy by the name of Alex Jones. You've obviously heard of him. He talks about atrazine. There are things that are in our water, microplastics, vaccines, all kinds of crazy stuff that are causing society to be different than it was. It's almost like the feminization of men. And I don't necessarily think that's just because of liberalism or even because of Satan, which I do believe is real. I think it's also the food and the toxins that we're exposed to that are causing men to be more feminized and females to be more masculine. So I think that goes even past just social viewpoints or Christianity. I think there's things that we can't control or that are out of our control that are causing people to be more homosexual and for men to be more feminized.
And just before you jump in, just to get us back into the topic, on your last point, just in your view, what would Trump do to mitigate the situation as you see it, if you don't mind, Alex?
Well, I hope he would try to limit the amount of microplastics and atrazine. But like I said, I mean, that's almost a bigger problem than one person can solve. So I do think Donald Trump would stop biological women from competing against trans women. So I think that he would be good on that agenda. And I do think that, listen, I don't like that when they have sex ed in these schools that they want to do it at a younger age and they don't want to just teach heterosexual sex. They want to teach anal gay sex. Like, I don't agree with that. And I don't think Donald Trump agrees with that. And I think you would agree with me that Donald Trump doesn't want to teach anal sex to children. I think you would agree with that, RC, right?
I think he does not want to teach that, but the question is why? Is it because common sense, we're the party of common sense and common sense is our standard and it just feels icky? Is that our standard so why is it wrong to teach children that?
Well, I mean, you can't make a baby by doing that, right?
So
by having gay anal sex.
Right. No, you can't. I'm not arguing in favor that you can, but I'm saying.
So I think that's why you would say that heterosexual sex is that's real sex, right? What two guys do in their butt is, I mean, that's sexual, but I don't think that's sex for procreation. So that's what
common sense leads you to that conclusion then.
Well, that sex between a man and woman is for reproducing kids, and then sex between two men is basically just trying to ejaculate.
Right. So
that's why one is right and one is wrong, in my personal opinion.
Well, that's subjective, right? Because subjectively, someone on the left socially can argue that, well, I just want to seek pleasure. And who are you to tell me that I can't seek pleasure? Can you not seek pleasure with a woman with a condom and not do it for procreation? Because then once you start going down that rabbit hole, they can get you really quick. And then you start seeing that.
But we're talking about education. Like, why would you want to teach a kid about sex? Well, you want to teach them about the birds and bees. Like, there's a reason. Where did I come from? Well, your parents had sex and a baby came out. So that's why you would want to teach that. That's what I'm thinking of the application of teaching sex ed and why you wouldn't want to teach anal sex, because it doesn't. Well, you and I didn't get here from two guys having anal sex.
I get that. But, what a lot of people on the left would argue back to you is, well, there's kids in the classroom that have two moms and two dads.
That is true. There are some people that is true, but I think that's. Well, I guess my question is, why is one right and why is one wrong? That's my answer, because one is for procreation and one's not, and that's one.
That's a subjective standard.
Well, whether you're a boy, girl, trans, or whatever, we all got here from a woman's vagina. That is not subjective. That is objective. Nobody came out of a guy's butthole, right? So I think that's why they teach it.
Let's try to wheel it back in. So, yeah, I'm going to hand it over to you, RC. Criticisms of Trump. So we just let Alex wrap up on his thoughts of, how Trump might mitigate a situation that he was putting forward. Let's try to go into some new territory, maybe something to be critical about that we could get into.
Well, that's my question, RC. So why? Well, I guess, what are your biggest criticisms of Trump, RC? Because then maybe I can try to, talk about those. What are your biggest problems with Trump?
One, he allies himself around people like Amber Rose, who's an active porn star, just as the RNC does. We are putting people like that up, and we're poster childing them. Now I'm going to get into some other territory. Yeah, I think that he says he's America first, but clearly he puts the interest of Israel before the United States. I don't agree with that. I think that it's important to have allies throughout the world. I don't think it's important to have an ally that is potentially going to drag us into another war in the Middle East, spend billions of more dollars that we don't need to be there. Iraq was a mistake. Afghanistan was a mistake. And fighting against Iran or any other Middle Eastern country right now will be a mistake with all of the problems that we have in the United States. So if you're going to be America first, then actually be America first. So that's another issue I have. And there's a litmus. I mean, there's a laundry list of social issues I have with him. His abortion stance, his gay marriage stance. He was the Republican president in 2016 that was the most pro LGBT, holding up the pride flag. I just see stuff like this. It's like, so you are trying to win a popularity contest, but as a conservative, it's going to be countercultural, because conservatism, you asked me earlier, what is it? It's having a biblical traditional standard. That's what it always was. Like, that's not a new radical idea. That's not my opinion. Objectively, that's what it's always been, a biblical traditional standard that we held ourselves to. So it's very obvious that he does not hold himself to that standard. He's creating this new standard, and you see people in conservative politics, young people that are, you were just recently in a debate, I think on Jubilee, and the girl sitting next to you was very pro-abortion, right? And there's many other Republicans. You just said you can be gay and a conservative.
I do think that's possible. Sorry, go ahead.
So you can be pro-abortion and conservative. You can be gay and a conservative. You can be transsexual and a conservative. I think that, no, we shouldn't be this big umbrella that allows anybody in. As a conservative movement, there has to be lines drawn in the sand.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is where we disagree. Is, I get it. You want to be staunch and hard, fast, and that we all have to have the same viewpoints, but that's just not how. That's not being based in reality. There are people that have had abortions, that want to have abortions, that still want limited government. It's kind of like the vaccine mandates. You want my body, my choice. And when it comes to abortion, some women still want my body, my choice. I agree with you. I think abortion's murder. I don't like it. But just because somebody has that one viewpoint, I don't think that means they can't be conservative, in my opinion. So that's where it's like, I get where you want to make the standard of being conservative much higher than it is right now. But once again, we go back to the popularity contest. You don't like the Big Ten. I disagree. I think we need more people that are coming over to the right, and it should feel quote unquote accepted, even if they are not 100% on board with your viewpoints. If they tend to agree with more viewpoints than they disagree with, then I think that should be a conservative, or maybe a libertarian, maybe a populist, but they are skewing towards a conservative side, and I think that that's what's happening. And I get what you're saying. I totally understand what you're saying, but how do we ever win then? So we're just wants us to constantly be unpopular and constantly lose elections so that the left can just have their progressive game plan go even faster, and more kids can get sexually indoctrinated, and more transgenders can compete against biological females in sports. Like, I just don't understand how. I get what you're saying. It's like, it's a slippery slope. But isn't that so much more slippery if we let the left win every election by being so anti-inclusive?
I think that socially there's going to be no difference between the right and the left pretty soon.
Come on, but RC, real quick, you really don't think that? Even I'm saying, I'll agree with you. It is getting slippery, but you don't think the left will be way crazier and way anti-God and way anti-Christian than the right? Like, I still think it would take a while for, even if Donald Trump goes, and then we get Nikki Haley and all these people that I don't like, George Bush going and starting a war in the Middle East, killing millions of Muslims for weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. I don't like any of that, but I still think those neocons would align with you more and keep hope alive for you much longer than anybody on the left would when it comes to social conservative Christian values.
So, Alex, you're saying, like, come on, you really think that it's going to get to that point?
No, I'm just saying, do you think it's going to happen faster? I'm saying if you just try to be anti-inclusive and you want to be so hard fast about what you think is and isn't conservative, I'm saying by doing that, I think you alienate people and you cause the left to win more. And when the left wins by being so uninclusive, I think that all the hard work you put in, it's just going to go faster for all the values that you want to see stay, or just going to leave much faster if the left gets into office. That's my point. And I get it. You don't want to appease people. You don't want to pander. You don't want to change any of your morals. But you're in the minority. I don't know. And so we'll never win being in the minority, and that's fine, but you're only going to have a country that's more degenerate, more anti-God, and more abortion and more sexual indoctrination by being like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I disagree. So the reason you're saying that, well, obviously the left is so much more anti-God than the right, and they're so much more pro-abortion. It's because it's 2024, and it's not been that long ago, that less than 15 years ago, that the Democrats were on the same page as us for most social issues. In just 15 years, they've changed to such a radical standard. So let's fast forward 50 more years. People aren't going to remember a nation that was actually surrendered to God. It's in our memory because we have been within the memory span of this. We've been within the time span of this. Our lives have been within the time span where our nation at one point was actually surrendered to the authority of God. In 50 years, 80 years, it's going to be further and further and further away from this, and people are not going to remember what that standard was. And yeah, the lines are going to continue to get blurred, and that's the point of a conservative. You conserve. And what values are we conserving? And you said that I'm trying to bring the conservative movement up to this, like, up to a standard. No, the conservative standard always was at this level, and it's been lowering and lowering and lowering because of, as you said, inclusivity. And who are we including? Transsexuals, homosexuals, pro-abortionists, and who knows who else is going to be now included in the umbrella. Now, if you want to vote for a Republican, go ahead and vote for whoever you want to vote for. I'm not saying that you can be a trans and not vote for Republicans. You can be gay and not vote for Republicans, or not vote for Trump. But as a conservative, yeah, you have to draw lines in the sand. That's the point. Otherwise, we're conserving nothing socially, and we're no different from the left.
Well, RC, I guess you would agree that humans have free will, but don't you think God is in control of everything?
God is in control of everything, but we have free will, so we can do whatever we want. He's not. If we have rejected God as a nation, right, which the founding fathers made very clear not to do, even though some of them were a little bit kooky, as you said. Benjamin Franklin had some weird beliefs, not going to lie. Not all of them, though, right? Most of them had the authority of God. But if we reject God as a nation, one nation under God, clearly we're not following that standard anymore, then God's not going to, I'm not a speaker for God, right? I can't say for certain what his will is for us, but I don't think he plays favorites with a nation that rejects him. And it seems that every day that goes by, we continue to reject him. And the one side in American politics, the conservative movement, is now rejecting his authority. So really, what separates us from the left socially, this is all socially. Economically, we agree. I don't think there's really any disagreement economically, but economics is downstream from social. Because if you lose your culture to such a hedonistic, degenerate society, what does it really matter what our economic views are? We've just lost societally what we always were.
Well, so after Sodom and Gomorrah, God flooded the earth, right?
Yeah.
And I guess, why was he motivated to do that? Because he saw the debauchery and how degenerate earth had become, right?
Yeah.
So could you argue that maybe it's a good thing that people are becoming more degenerate, so Jesus Christ will come back faster?
There are accelerationists that would say, but if you hold that view, then why not just vote for Kamala Harris and let's just accelerate to the end?
Oh, isn't that what you're arguing? That
No,
that
I'm
you're
saying that-
anti-Trump and that Kamala is just the lesser of two? I mean, it's just the same as Trump, basically.
I'm saying
Well, just
that
to jump in right quick, just to try to steer us back to it as well. Just a quick question, right corner. Like, if we had the benefit of going back, who would have been a candidate that you think holds values that you would have said, okay, that's somebody who I think represents the party as I see it, just to try to give us some pushback. Go ahead, the right.
I would like to respond real quick to what he said.
That's
Can you
fine.
repeat your question, if you remember?
Well, what was it? Isn't it better if the world gets more degenerate, because then Jesus Christ, the rapture will happen sooner, and then then we get to go to heaven faster for the people that are, morally just to go to heaven.
I don't know. I know some accelerationists may believe that, but conservatism is headed in that direction anyway, because we're not. I'm saying we, but I don't consider myself part of this new conservative neocon movement in this country. But it's headed in that direction anyway. It's just going a little bit slower, but it continues to head into that same direction. And then you were asking me, Ryan, it says James on your screen.
Sorry. That's throwing you right off. No, I was just asking, if there was a candidate that comes to mind, like I said, if we were able to go back, oh, my camera's being funky. If we were able to go back, like, who's somebody that comes to mind that you say, okay, that's somebody who would represent the party, or, bring it back to the standard that you're talking about there?
In the United States, I don't have anyone in mind, but I can look at I don't know if it's frozen for you guys. I don't know if you can hear me right now.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
The screen's a little
it's fine.
Okay, cool.
My
But you
camera's
can look
just
at
being a CAD.
You can look at the president of El Salvador, and in his interview with Tucker Carlson a few months ago, what he said was very interesting. When Tucker asked him what his economic policy is, he said, "We put God first. We surrender to his authority," and he has his cabinet pray for every policy they've put forth. And you see what he's done with the country of El Salvador. I think you take somebody like that, not that he's perfect, but you take somebody like that has surrendered and has said that, yeah, we are fighting not only a physical battle on earth, but a spiritual battle in the spiritual realm. And he accepts that that's a reality. Then he's turned his country around in one of the quickest times you've ever seen a country at the level that it was at turn around and become prosperous. So I would take, somebody like him.
El Salvador, you like him? Well, I mean, I do want America to be better than El Salvador. I mean, to be honest, right? And why are they being so good? Aren't they sending all their criminals up here? Is that where their crime's down? Is that where their country is doing better?
I noticed that Trump accused, his name's Nayib Bukele. I don't want to mispronounce his name. That was a weird accusation Trump aimed at him. I don't know where the proof is that El Salvador is shipping off their criminals to the United States. If anything, Bukele, I don't want to mispronounce his name. I think it's Bukele, Nayib Bukele. He is a good example of what a leader submitting to God looks like. So no, he's not just shipped. They have them in prison in El Salvador. I'm not sure why Trump threw that shot at him when he's such a good example of how to turn a country around. Now, the United States is not El Salvador, but when you see someone turn a country like El Salvador that was in disaster around to the point that it's at now, I think that's something we could learn from. There's elements of that we can learn from. You can see when a nation surrenders to God, the benefits that come with it. The United States is the best example of that for hundreds of years. And when we start rejecting him, look at what's happening in our society. 1962, the Supreme Court rejected prayer in public school, banned it. Look what's happened after 1962. Look at divorce rates, marriage rates, crime rates. Look at what's happened to our society after 1962. So, I mean, a lot of people could watch this and say, I'm a religious nut, and what I'm advocating for is like absolutism. But we've always held that standard to be true. Both sides, Democrats and Republicans, have held the same social standard. And then it started breaking away. That is the biggest difference between the right and the left, is socially now, and economically. That's always been a difference, but socially, it's so far apart.
Yeah, okay, RC, but this is the problem, and I think you are being a little bit of an absolutist, absolutist, whatever. But I do think you're being a little bit. But this is the problem, right? You and I think we'd both agree that the Big Bang, two rocks didn't just smash together and we evolved from nothing. I think that you and I would both agree that there was a creator, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that even if the conservatives come in power, do you think they're ever going to stop teaching the Big Bang Theory? Do you think they're ever going to stop teaching that we evolved from pond scum?
No, and I blame a lot of that on conservatives because we just cede ground to that. The Republicans don't fight back against it. And they say, okay, we won't put religion in schools, but we will put evolution, which is a religion. We will put LGBT. We will allow that. And I think in the Don't Say Gay bill, as they've labeled it, Ron DeSantis allows children, I think, now don't quote me on this, I could be wrong, but from what I understand, past 9 years old, they can learn about homosexuality, transsexual after 9 years old. It's like, so why are you compromising? Why are you trying to meet? There's no middle ground to be met there. When we're talking about children, there's no middle ground on abortion. There is no middle ground.
Well, I mean, I think you could argue that there is a little middle ground because there are people that are considered conservative that still want abortion. I don't. I agree with you. I think abortion's murder. But I'm just telling you that I think that I know people that have gotten abortions for different reasons, whether they like the person they had a kid with or they wanted to be connected to them. Whether that was murder or not, I think it is. Some other person would tell you that it's not. So my point is, I think you're being a little bit of an absolutist, and now I'm saying it right. And it's hard. It's going to be hard because you and I both know that we're never going to be able to change the curriculum that they're teaching in schools. Besides all the gay indoctrination stuff, I'm talking about the basic stuff they teach us is that, Big Bang, which was created by a Catholic priest, however long ago, which is all nonsense. But they teach it like it's fact. And the people on the right agree with this. The people on the left agree with this. So I do think that is probably one of the biggest plagues on our society is hiding the existence of God. But you're not going to get some candidate that's going to go out there and change all the curriculum in all the schools. Like, we're almost too far gone at this point. And I hate to be like that. I hate to be black-pilled. I want to be more positive. But when I look at our school curriculum and I think they teach us like, oh, I used to be a monkey's uncle. I'm not a monkey's uncle, all right? I do believe that I was created by a creator. So I just don't know how you're going to actually change all of these social issues when the basic social issue, evolution, will never not be taught in school. The Big Bang Theory will never not be taught. So I guess in a way, we're already defeated when you're trying to become a Christian or a godly country. Is that right? Do I think that's okay? No, I don't think that's good. But I just don't know how you're going to change every single city, every single state, every single school book, every single grade into now teaching that the earth was created in 7 days by God and he rested on Sunday. I don't think anybody on the right or the left will actually think that there are some people that will, but the majority of people will not say that should be taught in schools. Do I agree with that? No, but I just don't think that that's ever going to happen.
Well, you said that abortion is murder, all right? You don't agree with same-sex marriage. You don't think that type. Well, I don't know if you don't agree with same-sex marriage.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if same-sex marriage is necessarily good, but I kind of think marriage personally. This is maybe not that Christian, but I think marriage has been very corrupted. And obviously in the Bible, two men are not supposed to get married. But like if people want to enter into a contract to make their relationship, I guess, more legally binding, then, I guess I'm okay with that. Is it good? Probably not. But I think I'm okay with that.
See, so you're asking how can we reverse this? Or basically you said you're black-pilled. There's no getting away from this. You just stand against it. Like,
yeah.
There's so
but it's not a winning proposition, RC. That's the problem. I'd like to win.
It is, though. It is, though.
To get into heaven, maybe, but not here on earth. It doesn't benefit you here on earth at all.
So the winning proposition is to just give ground to these people on the left?
I think it's, maybe you do have to give ground to you have to get along to go along. Yeah. So sometimes you do have to look past the things you disagree about to try to come to common ground on the things you do agree about. Yeah. I know you don't like that, but I think that's what,
all right, so,
how the world really works,
Culturally. In the last 20 years, have we been going further left culturally in their values or further right?
Obviously further left.
So their strategy is winning and they don't compromise. That's my point. That's how you win.
Do they not? Do they not compromise? They lie. I think they lie, right? Because Kamala Harris said that she's not going to take away our guns on the debate stage. Says she owns a gun. And then the next day she's like, assault bans. So maybe they lie more. And maybe that's why they're better, but I don't know. I don't know if they don't. I feel like the left would do stuff to appease the right. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that they wouldn't compromise
On moral issues that they think that on same-sex marriage, on transgenderism, on abortion. I don't know. Gun rights is a legal right. It's not necessarily morally. That's not a moral issue at all, actually. So, but on moral issues like homosexual marriage is morally right, and abortion is morally right and justifiable, and transgenderism is morally right. They're winning, and they don't compromise. They don't compromise on those issues. They don't compromise on words that are even allowed to be said surrounding those issues. They start deeming what is a slur and what's not a slur, what's permissible and not permissible language. They're even changing the definitions of man and woman, and we are allowing them to do this. And we try to, and every time we,
are we allowing them though, RC though, or are they winning elections and they've been in power for 12 out of the past 16 years?
And I hate to inject too, just to focus, focus on what we got going on here. How do you think Trump has made this worse? Over either just these last years, whether not in office or in office, just to kind of get back to the debate topic tonight, if you don't mind. I know we're going out here, but let's try to get back to here, if you guys don't mind.
Well, it's one of your biggest criticisms that Trump is pro-Israel. I think I got that vibe, and I can see your criticisms. Hey, the USS Liberty, that's annoying, but at the same time, the amount of money.
It's annoying.
Well, but listen, I said it's annoying.
A lot more than annoying.
Well, I mean, do you don't think there's other countries that we fought wars with? Like, you don't think I think it's probably more annoying that we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars more to the Ukraine than we give to Israel. So I would argue that that war is even more annoying than the war in the Gaza Strip, personally. Are we going to have to go fight a war with Iran, potentially, on Israel's behalf?
USS
I don't want to do
Liberty
that.
Is not just annoying. This is our greatest ally that killed dozens of our military. And then,
well, look at Saudi Arabia. After 9/11, it's very annoying to me that they said all the terrorists are from Saudi Arabia, yet we went and fought a war with Afghanistan.
Yeah, but we don't consider Saudi Arabia our greatest ally in the world.
I think we consider Saudi Arabia an ally.
But Israel's unique in the fact that that's our greatest ally. And really, the Overton window has shifted in the last 2 or 3 years that we're even allowed to talk about this issue. The USS Liberty, you were not allowed to speak about in conservative Republican politics. You couldn't. You would just be shadow banned. You'd be censored. Criticizing Israel at all really has only been allowed in the last year.
Well, I know. I mean, I know that feels like that on the internet, but dude, I think people have been criticizing Israel since before the last year, RC.
Yeah, in private. But if you were on a major platform like Fox News,
still can't criticize Fox News and talk about this.
What do you mean?
You could not go on Fox News and talk about the USS Liberty.
You can't. Exactly. The Overton window hasn't been shifted that far.
Yeah.
So you're proving my point that the Overton window has been shifted enough that on platforms like this we can speak about it. I don't know if maybe you're going to start getting messages in your phone saying, "Hey, you got to stay off this topic." But I've had that many times, and people try to shut me down when speaking on this. And it's like, but why can't we? If this is our greatest ally, we can criticize any of our allies. Why is Israel off limits? And when I see Trump, that's like he said a week ago or 2 weeks ago it was like a American Israel alliance speech that he was giving to a bunch of his donors. He said that Israel doesn't have enough influence in our Congress, doesn't have enough influence in our country. It's like, what more influence do they need? Yeah, but this is treasonous. Why are we allowing another nation controlling our domestic affairs?
Hey, listen. RC, I have a lot of criticisms of AIPAC, influencing our elections. But then at the same time, if AIPAC can just choose who wins and loses elections, why was Ilhan Omar able to still win in Minnesota? So it's like, AIPAC, do they really control everything? Do they have a lot of power? Yes. Do they control everything? Do they have absolute power?
Everything.
That's what I'm saying. So they don't control everything. So even election, they spent millions of dollars, they still lost. So I guess I get the anti-Israel sentiment from a Christian, but at the same time, Jesus was a Jew. These are people that were in the Bible that were very important to the creation of the world we live in today. So I guess I don't understand why the traditional Christians have so much hate with the people of Israel. Like, I understand it a little bit, but I guess I would understand the hate between Muslims and Israelis more than Christians and Israelis personally.
I'm not sure which group is saying that they hate.
What you don't like Israel though, RC. I think I got that impression that
the
you
government.
Don't like
yeah, but what is it? I mean, is it only Jewish people that live in Israel?
No, but you would know
it's
who's
the
in
government
charge.
that I'm criticizing. It has nothing to do with Jewish people.
Okay.
And yeah, Jesus was a Jew, but who convinced the Romans to kill Jesus? who was pushing for the Romans to crucify Jesus?
Was Pontius Pilate a Jew?
No, he was a Roman. He was like he was in the Roman government, but he wasn't a Jew. No, who pushed Pontius Pilate? Because Pontius Pilate wanted to return Jesus back to his land, and
but then Pontius Pilate made the
crime that he's done.
But Pontius Pilate, a non-Jew, made the decision, though, right? We agree on that.
Pressured into making the decision that he didn't want to make.
All right, let's bring it back into Trump, no Trump. Let's do a weekend there. So I think we've gone through your thoughts on that. Maybe we could even talk about the other war that's going on that everybody's talking about. We could maybe delve into that if you guys have any disagreements on maybe some statements.
I think we
or
probably
stances.
agree. But do you think? How about this? Let's get back to Trump. Do you think Trump would? And I would argue that maybe there's a good chance he would help us get in war with Iran. But you'd have to admit that Trump would probably help out the war in Ukraine. I think that would end much faster under Trump than it would under any liberal leadership. Would you agree with that?
2016 Trump, perhaps. I don't know about Trump now. He seems like he has become the deep state that he's always said that he was fighting against.
Oh, come on, real quick, RC. You think he is? I mean, and listen, Trump's a very rich guy. Could he be in some sort of club that we don't know about? I think that's possible. But don't you think the deep state hates Donald Trump? And maybe there's different deep states, right? There could be like an American deep state, an Israeli deep state, Saudi Arabian deep state, a Mexican deep. I'm just saying I think there's conflicting deep states. I know that sounds crazy, but considering the cartel, is powerful, like there are different factions of, like, Russia has an intelligence operation that is just as powerful as Mossad and the FBI and CIA, from what I read. So there's other countries that have influence, and just like we influence elections in South America, other countries could be influencing our elections here in America. I think we would agree with that. And so I guess my point is, I don't think Donald Trump is the puppet of the deep state. Why would they keep trying to kill him? I think he is maybe part of it, but also there's people within the deep state that hate Donald Trump. Would you agree with that?
I think that there's a lot of people that hate Donald Trump. Perhaps some of them are in the deep state. I just remember Trump in 2015 campaigning on draining the swamp. I have not heard him say that again. I remember Donald Trump saying, nobody can pay me off. I'm not going to cater to any special interest group. I haven't heard him say that in years. So it's like, well, then who actually is Trump allying with? Because what happened to draining the swamp? What happened to putting Hillary Clinton in prison? What happened to doing all the things that he said he was originally campaigning for? I haven't heard that 2016 Trump in a long time. Well,
RC, you're a young man. I'm not like I'm some old guy, but I do believe America was built on second chances. And, you make a mistake. Let's just say his 2016 to 2020, he made a lot of mistakes. You don't think Trump deserves a second chance to maybe rectify some of those issues, maybe help some of the January 6ers that have been targeted by our corrupt Department of Justice? Like, you don't think that if he got into power, he would do more good for conservative values than less good? Like, I guess my argument is, do you think he's just going to get into the White House and be like, you know what, abortion, bring it on, trans in schools, bring it on? Like, I think you and I would both agree that he would be way more conservative than the alternative of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, right?
So again, being conservative, when defined as biblically traditional, which is what conservative has always been, that is counterculture. And you've said multiple times that Trump is trying to win a popularity contest. Mm-hmm. Biblical traditionalism is always going to be unpopular with hedonistic culture. So if he's just trying to win a popularity contest, then no, he's not going to be the best candidate for conservative values, because he's going to appeal to hedonistic cultural values. That's why he's allying with people like Amber Rose, who's an active porn star. That's why the RNC is bringing people like that up.
Well, for the same reason that Donald Trump, I hated a lot of the stuff that he did with the vaccine, but I think that he's trusting people that he's getting bad information from. They probably said, oh, you should have this Amber Rose girl. Now looking back on it, no, we should not. No, Amber Rose should not have been up there, considering her OnlyFans went on sale for half off or whatever after the fact. I agree with you on that. But who else in the conservative movement would you consider to Thomas Massie? I mean, I'm just trying to think, who would you consider a good alternative to Donald Trump that you call conservative, quote unquote, socially conservative, that you would agree with, I guess, more specifically?
Yeah. I don't know anyone right now. Trump is the only Republican option, realistic Republican option right now. He is the elect on the Republican side. So it is Trump versus Kamala. So if I viewed this as a secular person and I took my Christian lenses off and I put my values and I left them at the doorstep, And I selfishly said, yeah, of course, Trump is better in a lot of ways. That he's the lesser of two evils, in other words.
We agree.
But, right? But there is no lesser of two evils as a Christian. There is no lesser of two. I don't compromise on morality. I don't compromise on that. So when he starts justifying baby murder, justifying homosexual marriage, he's when you say that he is fighting for conservative values, none of that's conservative. And he's going to keep doing what is popular. As a populist, he will do whatever is popular. And guess what? Culture. Taylor Swift is going to win culture. People like Taylor Swift with their hedonistic values are going to win culture. You think that people are allured by culture. And if he's just trying to win the popular vote as a populist, then he's going to continue to become less and less and less conservative and far more liberal. Whatever the people want, that's what he's going to give them. And I don't agree with that, because that's not conservatism. Is saying I'm drawing lines in the sand here, here, here. I don't care however unpopular this is going to become. There needs to be foundation. There needs to be structure.
But you just admitted yourself, then there's no candidate that fits your requirements. There's no.
You asked me if I know anyone right now. I don't know anyone right now off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean there never will be. Like I said, the president of El Salvador is a good example of a man that I think we could learn.
Well, he'll never be president of the United States. I mean,
no, but a potential president could look at someone like him and start applying some of what
do you think? Do you think if somebody had that as their campaign strategy, would they have a possibility of winning?
Of course.
You do think so?
The majority.
Wouldn't you say the majority of society, like you said, are hedonistic and probably anti, you don't think the majority of society is hedonistic and probably not as staunch Christian as you are?
I think, and when you look at statistics, over 64%, I believe, are self-labeled Christians. So if they live up to that standard, then no, over 60% of this country, the majority of this country, is not hedonistic. Does that mean that every one of those 64%? I don't know. But I'm not saying that I'm more religious than them or not. I'm just
you all are more religious than, I would say that most Christians probably say they're Christian, but still when they leave church, they probably do hedonistic stuff. And then they would just say that I sin, right? Don't we all sin? I mean, we're all, fallible. I guess only God's infallible. I mean, aren't we all struggling to fight with sin? And don't you think we're all sinners, right? So I think there are levels of good Christians and bad Christians.
But what
more
Trump
moral
is doing,
Christians and less moral Christians.
You're a sinner, I'm a sinner, Trump's a sinner. Mm-hmm. What Trump is doing, there's a big difference between someone that sins and someone that justifies their sin. And when Trump is out there justifying immoral actions for the popular opinion, to win over the popular opinion, that is a huge red flag. Because then who's really winning in the long term? In the short term, maybe he wins the election. Maybe. In the long term, culture becomes exactly what the left and hedonists want culture to become. That's a big problem. And we have to draw lines in the sand, because otherwise, in the long term, we're going to lose big time. And before we know, we won't be able to bring and turn our society back around. Maybe it's already too late.
That's what I would argue is that I think, and I'm not trying to get so black-pilled, but the fact that you're never going to change curriculums in school that tell us that we evolved from pond scum and that the Big Bang is why we're here. Until you change that, you're never going to have a Christian society, because every single kid is going to say, I don't know if I should be a Christian because they taught me that I was an accident, that I don't matter, and that this is just all a cosmic creation when two rocks smashed together. So until we change that, I don't think we're ever going to be a Christian country. Yes, we're founded on Christian values, but that's 200, 300, 400 years ago. It's a lot different now than it was back then. So not one candidate is going to go in and change. Every school book has to say, you know what? Earth was created in 7 days. That's impossible. I think you and I would both agree that that's probably never going to change unless you go to a special Catholic school, Christian school. Then you're going to get taught a different curriculum. But in all public schools, that's never going to happen.
I'm just going to jump in just because we are getting down into the, more of just focusing on the religious aspect of the discussion. We did talk for 45 minutes, so if you guys want to just take if you want to step out for a drink or if you need to do anything else, feel free to take a moment. I am going to close the poll right quick, and then if you guys want to go into another back and forth, and we'll get some more questions in. We do have a few super chats already, so those ones will be read with a priority, but I think you guys still have a bit more to probably unpack here, so let me just close that poll right quick. I'm gonna warn you guys again. This is where you're supposed to be using the washroom and getting a drink. But no,
I'm okay. And obviously, RC, listen, your Instagram page does well. There's a lot of people that agree with you. I think you are very smart. I just think at the end of the day, Trump, and whether that's right or wrong, is the lesser of two evils. The much, much lesser. I like Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because I think that I'm more based in reality that we live in a society that's never going to put God over. And when I say put over, that means put God first. That's not going to happen, sadly. I don't know how we change that. I don't know how. But until we start teaching kids that God created the earth and not that it was an accident, you're never going to have a candidate that is going to align with traditional Christian values because they're always going to say, oh, I'm a Christian, yet in school we can teach kids that the Big Bang is how we got here, that you evolved, when I don't believe in evolution. I think there's microevolutions. Tall people have tall babies, but I don't think that I was a protista or an amoeba, an abiogenesis, two cells just split out of nowhere, and then I became a human. So we're screwed because that's not going to change, at least in public schools and every single college, at least every single public college in America.
So if you're so black-pilled and there's nothing that can be done, what's the point of being a conservative? Because that's counterculture. That's unpopular.
Because I want less
standard.
Because all the things that we like or that we agree on, I think that will happen less fast under Donald Trump than faster, if that makes sense. Like, I think the sexual indoctrination of kids will be less under conservatives. There'll be less government intervention. And just because you and I don't agree with social conservative viewpoints, there are other conservative viewpoints I think we did admit that we do agree on. So I think conservatism is just better for society. Is it fix society? Does it make society perfect? No, we're never going to have a utopia. Sadly, that's impossible. But I think it's better for society if we are more conservative than loony liberal social services, no free speech, get rid of the Bill of Rights. I do believe conservatives protect our amendments and our Bill of Rights more than the left. And I think you'd have to agree with me on that.
To an extent, yes. But when we call them loony liberals, I agree with you, but it's the loony liberals that are getting us to shift further and further away from our morality. You agree that abortion is murder and it's wrong, but then you say that, well, some people can meet and there is middle ground. That's because of these loony radical leftists pushing culture in that direction. A conservative says, no, it's just wrong. And I'm not going to argue with you on this. It's just wrong. Pedophilia, it's just wrong.
Yeah, but,
are we going to get to a point where we start debating pedophilia?
Well, see, that's the thing is, come on, RC, and obviously I'm against pedophilia, but I would even argue that people on the left are against pedophilia. I know this weird sexual indoctrination, and it seems like they're going to go there, but I would think that even the left would always and forever say that pedophiles are bad. I know you're going to be like, it's a slippery slope. All of a sudden, there's going to have a pedophile flag or whatever. I don't think that that's really going to...
Minor attracted people, they do have
they call it MAP, but I don't think that's okay. I don't think even people on the left... Yeah, there's probably some weird people on the left.
Yeah, exactly.
A very small amount. I would say the mass majority, 99.9% of people on the left are still against pedophilia. Come on, RC.
Yeah, but 99% of them used to be against same-sex marriage. And then it just started to become more culturally appropriate.
We'll have to tie this back in, but I will also let you guys know, just for the sake of who's watching this evening and where everybody stands. I closed out the poll. So pro-Trump was the winner at 43%. No Trump at 41%. So very close on that one. But I never voted for Trump, but I will, is at 9%. So people that never voted for him but will this time is at 9%. And I voted for Trump, but I won't again, is at 5%. So, if you do the quick math on that, you're at 54 versus, 46 on that. So, let's carry on. We're doing, no Trump, pro-Trump. If you haven't already hit the like button, I'm going to put another poll in the chat. So, let's try to shift into, another another topic or another focus that we can get into. So take it away.
Well, I mean, we'll just go back to Trump. I think the biggest criticism that you have, though, RC, is that he's not a big enough Christian, right? I mean, because let's just be real. Trump says he believes in God, but he's never really talked about faith very much. I don't think his faith is the most important thing to him. I think our country is more important than his faith, which actually kind of respect. I mean, I get it. You're saying that faith is the most important thing, but I do think that he does care about this country, and I think making the country a better place is incredibly important to Donald Trump, and that's why I support Donald Trump.
Yeah, but what kind of country are we going to have when we start giving ground to these hedonists? Like, what is it really a country worth saving? And if he's
is it savable? You still think this country just can be saved? I mean, you think every public school is going to change and become where people are going to be praying? And I mean, do you think all this is just going to change under somebody else other than Trump? Like, do you think one person can fix all this?
I think that anything is possible when you surrender to God. If you were to ask the founding fathers, well, that's what the founding fathers did, right? If you were to ask them, do you really think?
Well, what would Muslim people say? They surrender to God.
Who?
I'm saying Muslim people want a more Muslim country. Do you think that they would say that we're going to ever be a Muslim country?
I would look to the founding of this country. And what I was going to say is, if you were to tell the founding fathers, you're going to escape this Catholic monarchy and this dictatorial dictator that you have, and you're going to found the best country in the world, that's a far shot, near impossible to ever happen. And then England's going to allow you to go over to America, but they're going to control you. And then one day you're going to write the best constitution that's ever been written for any country.
Well, they've had to amend it a lot. So to be fair, they've amended it a lot since.
But that's why it's such a good constitution, because it allowed for amendments. Because they had the foreknowledge to know.
But it wasn't perfect when they wrote it, right?
No, but that's why they allowed for amendments, because they knew it wasn't going to be perfect. That's part of the genius of the Constitution, and declaring their independence away from arguably the most powerful government at the time in England and the UK. To tell them that they were going to succeed in that is almost, because you're asking me, is the United States beyond saving? It's near impossible what they accomplished with the United States, and it's going to be near impossible to retain the successful essence of this country. But it's not impossible.
Was it morally right when we did the Trail of Tears and we killed all the Native Americans?
Was it morally right what the conquerors of this land did? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, aren't those the people that created this country?
Well, I think if you're going to say that that's wrong, then every country's wrong that took over land.
I know, but I'm saying, so you say this country is built on Christian values, yet they went and killed arguably millions of Native Americans?
They came here to kill the Native Americans?
Well, I mean, they were here first, right?
The Native Americans were here, yeah.
Yeah, we both agree that Christians killed a bunch of Native Americans, right? And then they not only did they kill them, but they killed all the buffalo so that these people wouldn't have food, and we actually starved a lot of them. Is that Christian?
A lot of the Native Americans died because of diseases that came on from the clothes that the conquerors were wearing and on the ships, but they didn't come here to genocide Native Americans. If they wanted to genocide Native Americans, there wouldn't have been another Native American left in the United States.
You don't think that was a genocide, what we did to the Native Americans?
Was that their goal, to genocide Native Americans?
I would think so, yeah, right? Because isn't that what they
we got to try to refocus on how we got here.
Wait, I know, but real quick, because we're talking about the founding of this country that was built on Christian morals and Christian values, and I would argue that killing millions of people because they're different than us is not what Jesus would want us to do. I would just argue that.
A lot of millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of them died because of diseases. They didn't come here to massacre.
Do you think more people died from us killing them, or just
diseases,
cholera or whatever they got? It was just diseases.
Yeah, not just, but much more died from diseases than there was no genocidal intent of the founding fathers.
All right, I got to throw the monkey wrench in here, guys. So the debate happened the other day between Trump and Harris. I'm sure you guys watched it. Maybe you're like me and you're really sick and you watched it a few times just to really just get it in you. Give your thoughts on that, I suppose. Maybe there we can find some differences in, like I say, representation and our thoughts on how that
Well,
unfolded. So, hand it over to you, Alex. Yeah.
RC would disagree with me. I would have liked Trump to pander a little bit to the left and say, "Hey, I'm the guy that gave you all the $1,200 stimmies. I'm the one that helped y'all out with the PPP loans." I would like it, even though I want less government intervention, to say, "Listen, I'm going to stop giving these illegal immigrant social services, and I'm going to help out my American Black community. You know, all the communities that are struggling with more social services." And that's not even a conservative viewpoint. I would have liked him to pander a little bit because I just saw Kamala pandering the whole time. It's like, he should pander a little bit. I mean, he's not even really pandering by saying that he did help us out financially during COVID. Now we're having major repercussions with inflation, this and that. Yes, but that's what I would have liked to seen him do, is try to, I guess, appease more people in the middle, because I think that's the only way we win. And I think Trump is a better candidate out of the two.
Well, my critique of the debate, Donald Trump has wrote the book Art of the Deal. And instead of making a deal with Kamala and the left saying, I will debate on your terms and you have to agree in a contract to debate on my terms in a second debate on Fox News, he didn't make a deal. He just went. It was really a 3v1. He should never have agreed to their terms. And I think that was it was a worse look for Trump and it was a better look for Kamala, that debate. It was just why would Trump, who is a master of making deals, the art of the deal, not make a deal and go over there?
Well, I don't know if he had a choice. I don't know if he really had much of a choice.
He did. He didn't have to agree.
Well,
just like
I don't know. But then if he says no, then the optics could be that he looks like he's like running.
Here's how you make the optics.
He's not doing a second debate. I think he's decided not to do a second debate, and she won't debate him on Fox News. But I don't like Fox News either. I think Fox News is full of shit.
Yeah. So. But I don't know any other major news station that is at all to the right, right? So I think the optics look bad because he allowed it to look bad. But if he would have said, I will debate you on whatever news station you want with whatever moderators you want, but you have to agree to debate me in a second debate with the moderators I want on the news channel I want, right? But why, then the ball would have been back in their court. But again, even using that as an example, it's allowing the left to dictate the decisions. It's always playing on their rules and on their playground.
Well, right? they're in power right now, though, right? So
they are in power. Not only are they in power in charge of this country, they are in power of culture. They are in power of what's popular, and we keep, like Trump keeps playing in their battleground. He didn't have to agree. He didn't have to agree to the debate with Biden, which was before the RNC and the DNC, which has never happened before. That's never happened. And he agreed to debate Biden on their terms. He keeps going on their terms. I just think it was a mistake all around. It didn't look like he prepared for the debate. It's not like Kamala did a great job at all, but
I think he thought she was going to do worse. She did a little better than we expected, and he did a little worse, I think we'd say. But
maybe that earpiece she was wearing helped.
See, I see that. I'm such a conspiracy theorist. I think that the CIA or FBI could probably even give her a better listening device. I mean, that might have been the Bluetooth. I think they would have to be a little smarter to use a Bluetooth earrings that everybody could figure out in 2 seconds. But I don't know. I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I do think that they would cheat that. But I feel like they have other listening stuff. But listen, we don't need to talk about what devices she used to have a better debate. Trump had some times where he could have taken some more shots at her. I would have liked to have seen him do that. And it's like when she said, hey, your rallies end early. He could have been like, well, maybe they end early because I got shot at the rally. Maybe that's why it ended early. And they didn't even bring up his assassination attempt one time. That frustrated me. So I don't know. Is Trump ever going to get a fair shake with the media? You and I would both agree that even Fox News is not going to give him a fair shake. Fox News is owned by the same people that own all the other media companies, and they have the same.
Where are those people?
Well, you and I, would maybe agree on that, disagree with that. But what I'm saying is those people that you say do own the media, they don't own every single thing. I know I'm of the opinion where, yes, they are very powerful, but that's another thing. It's like, we can't be a victim, right? Trump can't be a victim and be like, oh, I don't want to debate because I'll lose. Sometimes the cards are stacked against you and you still got to go out there and play the game. I just don't know how else you compete. Even if it is unfair, sometimes in a football game, you have to beat the team and the refs. Makes it much harder, but that's just the way it is. Life's not fair.
But he didn't have to agree to those terms. He did not have to agree. He decided to agree on their terms, not strike a deal. What happened to the art of the deal? There was no deal made. And he just made himself look bad. That was not a good look for him. He could have definitely made the optics look so much better if he said, I'll agree on your terms with your moderators, but you have to agree to a second debate with my terms, my moderators. And he didn't. He would have definitely put the ball in their court, and he didn't do it. I just think it was a weak look all around.
Well, I think you should have debated, even if it is rigged. But we'll just agree to disagree. But let's do the questions though here pretty soon, because I actually have to go. I've really enjoyed the debate, but I just got to go. It's almost 8:30. I got to be done by 9. I got to go on Sky News at 9:15.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we can get into the Q&A. So as long as, let's do that. We do have quite a few questions, and that might put us into some new avenues of discussion. So just so I don't keep Alex over here, I could just pause my timer. It's at 30 minutes right now. So we do appreciate the super chats. So if you do have a question for either of our speakers, you can get it into a super chat, and we will ask it to them. They're on screen right now. We are live at Modern Day Debate. So Joe Vashade asks for $10. Question: has any Trump supporter or hater actually read The Art of the Deal? What I've read so far explains a lot of the BS he tries to sell us. Yet, it also has a lot of truths about influence. So, The Art of the Deal. Have you guys checked it out? Have you read it?
I've not read it.
No.
All right,
Spark Notes versions of it, but not in its entirety, no.
Yeah. I mean, I have excerpts I've read, but I've not read it. Not enough to say I've read it.
No worries. It doesn't sound like you have too much input on that if you guys haven't read the book. So we'll hold on that. And we've got a couple other questions from Joe Vashade, really holding up the fort there. Thanks, Joe Vashade, for all the questions. Very curious about what you guys were talking about tonight, and wants to get some clarifications here. So this is more of a statement, but you guys can feel free to jump in here. Joe Vashade says, the noun sex is different than the verb sex. The noun is academic, and kids should be privy to learning about the verb to learning about it. The verb is mature content and should be restricted to adults. So, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I do think you have to teach kids about the birds and bees and where we came from, but probably not till they're in high school, close to 16 or 17 or, I don't know, at least 15, probably.
Yeah, I think you just leave that to the parents altogether. I think that teachers shouldn't be teaching kids about sex ever. I think that just leave those questions to the parents.
All right, you got it. All right, let's carry into the next one. Thank you so much. That was Joe Vashade's 20th super chat on Modern Day Debate. So we do appreciate all your support. And Joe Vashade strikes again, saying homophobia is a sin, for it is breaking. Matthews 7, 1, 2. Who are we to judge another's sin as worse than our own? I'm not Christian, but at least I can respect this sentiment. Who agrees or disagrees?
It was definitely written by a gay guy, but I don't know. Maybe he has a point. He might have a point. I mean, maybe we shouldn't just hate each other, But I don't think the Bible's pro-gay.
No, the Bible's definitely not pro-gay. I guess God's homophobic. God seems really homophobic in the Bible. I would say that's a good thing. It's a good thing because you have to have morality. So, yeah, Jesus loves everyone, but he also says, go forward and sin no more. They stop at that part where he says, go forward and sin no more. So that's just gay propaganda for you.
All right, let's carry into, we have a membership chat. RC, writing in Jesus is a half vote for Kamala. So they're coming at you for, I guess, some of the conversation topics tonight. We did try to push it into the political, but there was a lot of disagreements about Trump's religious behavior. So go ahead, Alex. You're trying to jump in.
I do think that, if you're really religious, you could have some criticisms of Trump, but I think there's some other stuff that you can criticize Trump about too. But you do have to admit, though, RC, when you go to vote, I guess Trump is not socially moral enough for you, but voting for Kamala is voting for even more anti-God or more anti-Christian than a vote for Trump. Wouldn't you agree with that?
There's not more anti. There's just you're either with God or you're anti-God. So
you don't think Trump's more with God than Kamala?
No. Not when you're justifying murder. No. And if the conservative standard is biblical traditionalism, he's falling short of that. So no. Like, it's one thing,
but that's
to
not
sin.
the
We all
conservative
sin.
standard for everybody. That's for you, for certain people, but that's not for. I don't think everybody has the same.
Well, the conservative standard has changed, but the conservative standard always was that. That's the point that I'm saying. I'm a conservative. I want to conserve what we always have conserved. But the neocons have been trying to reshape what conservative means. I disagree with them, hence why I'm having this debate. But no, I think that once you justify murdering babies, justify homosexual marriage, justify immoral things, then there's no less or more evil. It's just evil. It's just wrong.
All right. We can carry into the next super chat there. Jova Shade strikes once more, saying, voting for the lesser of two evils is still a vote for evil. I'm voting for my dad for the principles, values, and respect he taught me, not because he has the best words. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I'm voting for Donald Trump because I think he's best for our country. And yeah, I mean, I do think that there should be, I know we said this at the beginning, like a separation of church and state. And I think people can be conservative and not necessarily Christian. I think there can be Muslim conservatives, and believe it or not, there can be Jewish conservatives. There can be atheist conservatives. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but I would stand by that, and I guess you would disagree, RC.
No, you can be part of the conservative movement. You just have to respect what the standard is in the conservative movement. But if there's no standard, then anyone can be a conservative, because conservative doesn't actually carry any meaning. And I keep getting like labeled as no Trump. I didn't agree to this debate as a no Trump. I'm just undecided. I'm probably going to vote for Trump against Kamala, because the DNC is just so disgusting. They're so hyper disgusting.
I agree with you on that.
So I can vote for the Republican Party, but for the guy that was asking the question, don't forget that going to the ballot box, you're not only voting for the president, you're voting for your local congressman, you're voting for senators, you're voting for governors. If Kamala unfortunately wins, you don't want her to have a full sweep. You don't want her to win the House and the Senate. So you can keep voting for your values in this House and in the Senate in the event that Kamala does win. You just don't want a full sweep. That is the worst possible case scenario.
All right. Now, last question for now coming in, and then we'll go to our closing statements, unless another question comes in between now and then. But yeah, we are getting through them, guys. I'll get you out of here in good time there, Alex, to get ready for your next show that you got going on there. Nominal says, isn't every vote a vote for the lesser of two evils? Since all have sinned.
I think you just read that one. Right.
This is actually from another person, but I am reading it, and it's very similar. Sorry to say, since all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God.
Well, we all fall short of the glory of God. I mean, RC would agree with that, but I think, yeah, I mean, I guess I would never. I'm not going to come here and say that Donald Trump is like some huge Christian guy, or that's his big identity. I'm not going to lie and say that. I think his identity is America first, even though you're going to say, oh, he wants to help out Israel. But, you know.
Wants to do more than just help out.
I know, but if we give so much more money to other countries, like, I get your criticisms with Israel. Trust me, I do. I'm not here to
Israel
say.
is the country, the ally we've given the most money to.
I don't know. I think if you look up how much money we give Israel every year, isn't it only like $8 billion or something like that we've given?
In total, Israel is the ally we've given the most money to. It's not even close.
Well, I'll tell you this much. In World War II, we didn't get involved until they attacked us in Pearl Harbor. I think that's kind of weird.
What does that have? What is that?
Well, I'm just saying, they say they're our biggest ally, but we let a lot of bad stuff happen to Israel. So, I mean, is Israel our biggest ally, I would argue? Like, I don't know if we've done enough fast enough to help Israel in some circumstances.
Israel didn't even exist yet.
Well, I'm saying, I guess Jews is what my point is when I say Israel. I'm talking about Jews. Yeah. I'm saying, we should help out Jews. I think that is important, but sometimes
we rescued them.
I don't think we've helped them out enough, I guess is what I'd argue.
We rescued them from getting slaughtered by the Nazis.
It took a while, though, for us to start helping them. We should help them out sooner.
Okay, I mean, but to say that we didn't help them, we were their biggest help. If you could argue the Soviets too. I mean, that if it wasn't for the Allies fighting against the Nazis, I saw Bibi Netanyahu
Now, don't
think
forget
4
about
months
us over
ago.
here. Come
I
on
think
now.
Yeah, Canada.
I think
Sorry.
Bibi Netanyahu came out, I think 3 or 4 months ago, and said that no one helped the Jews in World War II. I think that's just such a
I did
ridiculous.
hear that statement. That statement is ridiculous. I think we probably
Yeah.
could have helped him out a little sooner. But listen, I'm America first too. I have criticisms that we're giving social services to illegal immigrants, or we're helping out foreign countries with our resources, like Ukraine, like Israel, instead of helping and defending our border. Trust me, I agree with you on that. That's very annoying that sometimes we care more about Israel's border or Ukraine's border than our own border. I don't
Sure,
necessarily like that.
Yeah. So that's just my point with that. But back to the question the guy asked, yeah, we all fall short of the glory of God. We are all going to sin. No one's going to be perfect, as Alex was saying. But when you start justifying abortion, like Alex, you said abortion's wrong. It's wrong. How do we win on these issues? It's wrong. And we don't compromise on it. It's wrong. The only reason
Well, but
we would
a heartbeat
compromise on
bill, but you have to admit, like a heartbeat bill or something like that, making it 6 weeks or 12 weeks, it does save more lives than it hurts, right? I mean, would you agree that it doesn't save all lives? It doesn't save all lives, which is what you'd want, but it saves more lives than the alternative of, like allowing late-term abortions, having a hard, fast date at the beginning in the first trimester. Yeah, it's not enough for you, but it does save more lives than the left would like to save, right?
Yeah, sure, it saves more lives, but that's not my standard. My standard is not justifying murdering human life, because once you concede that point, then they can just keep pushing further and further their standard of.
But hasn't it gone backwards
li-
though in the past 50 years since Roe v. Wade? Haven't we put in more restrictions to outlaw abortion? So wouldn't you say it's trending the opposite way of they wanted afterbirth, but now it's a states' rights, and yeah, even Florida is conservative, but you can still get an abortion there. But Texas has a heartbeat bill. There's legislation that's in that I think is saving lives in a lot of states, and that wasn't the case just a year ago or 2 years ago.
Well, if we're talking about going backwards, if you look at the early 1900s, the original feminists like Elizabeth Cady Stanton were anti-abortion, and those were feminists leading the feminist movement, right? And they were very anti-abortion. All of the feminists leading the movement were anti-abortion.
Not Margaret Sanger.
When was Margaret Sanger? What time period?
Well, I mean, she was the one that basically put a Planned Parenthood.
Planned Parenthood?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about early 1900s. That was like the second wave of feminism with Margaret Sanger. Anyway, long story short, yet, even the people that were the ones that we know as pro-abortionists now, like feminists, they were anti-abortion. So the right wing has conceded so much ground to the point that we're even arguing amongst ourselves if abortion is wrong or not. And so, yeah, it's good that it returned back to the states, but then Trump is fighting governors like Ron DeSantis, who's putting an abortion ban at like 5 or 6 weeks. He's saying,
well, I think he changed his mind and said he's going to vote for it, right? I mean, I don't think that. That one interview, I guess he was kind of vague about what he was going to do, and then I think that he was more clear in his second interview when it was brought up.
Well, like you said, I think you summarized it perfectly. He's a populist. He's going to do whatever he thinks is popular and is going to win him the most votes. That's obviously antithetical to conservatism, because that's doing the popular thing. Conservatism, culturally speaking, is unpopular. So
I think that's fair.
I fundamentally disagree.
I think that's fair.
I think that was it for the questions, though.
Yeah, that was the last question. Let me just double check here. And if that is the case, then I will just close out our last poll. And now I did this the last time RC was on, and I just like having fun with the polls. You know how it goes. So we'll just close this out, and you'll see that in the live chat in just 1 second there. So who did you find the most compelling speaker tonight? So coming in at number one at 40%, we have The Voices Inside My Head. 37% for Alex Stein, and then 21% for Right Corner. So yeah, thank you everybody for participating in the polls. It's a lot of fun. We are going to do closing statements in the reverse order of where we started. So I'll hand it over to you, Right Corner. You'll have a minute on the floor just to make a closing and tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure. Yeah, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I'm just trying to say that there used to be a standard with the conservative movement. Even the Democrats would agree. Socially, we held that the standard was to the authority of God, the Christian God, Jesus Christ. all of society agreed with this in the West, in the United States, and in most of the West. We have now lost the standard. I'm just fighting to reestablish the standard that always was. This is not a new idea. It's a conservative idea, hence why I'm a conservative. You have to ground it in something. Otherwise, it carries no weight. It's a word that carries no weight, like man or woman, if you don't ground it in an objective definition to an objective standard. That objective standard is God. And people can find me. I primarily just post on Instagram, and I go by the right corner.
Well, I enjoyed this debate, and I would argue that you're right. Trump is the populist candidate, and he's probably never going to be a super Christian, conservative based politician that a lot of the Christian conservatives want. But I would argue that, and I'm not trying to get blackpilled, but guys, I would argue that until we change the fabric of our society that worships science as the first religion, and even Christians, I talk with Christians all the time that still believe in evolution. So until we change science as the number one religion in the world, you're always going to be in the minority. And when you're in the minority, you're never going to win elections. You're never going to put people in power and probably get the things in place that you want. So it's great to have morals. I think that we should have morals, but it's a much bigger problem than who is the president of the United States, because that's just a figurehead at the end of the day. We have to change the thought about science. Where did we come from? Did we all come from nothing? Until people learn that God created the earth, then you're always going to have a godless world that we live in. So sadly, Satan is winning, because what the devil's greatest trick was convincing us, not that the devil wasn't real, but that God wasn't real. So until people start realizing that God is real, our country is only going to fall farther and farther away from God, Christianity, Islam, even Judaism. We're going to become atheists. And once that happens, we don't have any morals. And that's the direction we're heading, sadly.
All right, well, everybody, that is our closing statements. So thank you so much, Alex Stein, and to Rob, the right corner, for coming out and doing this debate, this discussion. It's been very friendly, which is nice to see. I always enjoy that. You know, I'm Canadian, and I just enjoy the kindness, right? Of people being able to have a good back and forth and not being too rude to each other, right? So that's great. Hit the like button if you enjoy what you heard tonight. We'll link both of our guests in the description there, and we'll see you next time.
And
Cheers.
I just want to tell everybody, thank you for watching. Everybody, appreciate you, RC. Appreciate you, Modern Day Debate. Thanks. I know James isn't doing it. I know it's you, Ryan, but thank you guys. Peace and good night, guys.
Yes, a salute to James. All right, see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.